Hey everybody, Chuck here from Viper Studios. Glad you could join me. Today I have a special guest. Now, this guest is on the other side of the planet. I shouldn't say on the other side of the planet, but he's over in Europe, and that country is Poland. I was always interested lately in the news. Um, Poland has economically has done very well over the last 2 decades around that time, and I have visited Poland on 4 different occasions, and the food is fantastic. The people are really, really nice. And this particular person goes by the name Holy Joe Rock and Roll, and he does have a YouTube presence out there where he talks about quite a lot of subjects. But today's subject has to do with the COVID-19 and what's going on over there, over in Europe, that many of us in America and in other countries don't know because we don't either get the local news, we don't understand other people's languages, and or we're just really concerned about what's going on locally. That's keeping us in the know of what's happening. So I want to introduce my guest here. Sorry about this, folks. We are having some internet. Okay. The people in our control room said that we're online. We have Holy Joe. Hey, good to meet you. How you doing? Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, I can hear you.
Excellent. So you live over in Poland,
Yes,
in the European Union, and
right.
as I had said when I first opened up, Poland over the last 20 years has been really doing very well economically, um, different industries, things like that. And when I was there, I was really, really impressed with the quality of life that people experience. The same thing like here in America, we have people are who visit different historic landmark areas, and even just around town, people go to the restaurants and bars and places like that. And so, what I want to ask is, with the pandemic, it's not just China, it's not just Italy, and it's not just the United States. How is it over there in Poland at this time?
Right. So I guess about 2.5 weeks ago, they ordered a quarantine, kind of a lockdown. Not a pure lockdown, but they asked people to work from home, stay home unless they were essential type, workers. So basically, you can go out to shop for food. All the stores closed except for food stores and essential things like pharmacies and obviously the hospitals are still open. They shut down all the schools, so kids are now working. They're doing some lessons from home. What else? So it's basically work from home. Um, nobody says shelter in place here. I know they use that in the U.S., but basically, stay home unless you have to be out. Most recently, they changed the regulations to say, if you're in a car, there can't be more than two people
Hmm.
in the car unless it's a family. You can't be on the street together, only two people close together, unless again it's a family.
Hmm.
So, for instance, it could be a father and mother and two kids. That's fine. Um, I don't see there's nobody really enforcing it. It's just people are on their own, just sort of minding by this sort of social distancing. But obviously the troubling part is
Hmm.
Krakow. I live in Krakow, which is the former capital. It's now just sort of I call it the city of kings because
Hmm.
the kings, were down here in
Right.
Krakow. Warsaw is, of course, now the official capital of Poland, but it is known as a very touristy and party city. Not as bad as Mardi Gras or New Orleans, not to that extent of
Extent. Yeah.
debauchery, but just a cool place. And all those places are shut down, and definitely has affected me. I mean, I don't mean to be selfish, but Monday nights I usually would go out with my boys and we do karaoke, right?
Right.
And can't do that. And actually, before they even ordered the quarantine, the last 2 weeks before that, I actually didn't go just out of fear, not for myself, but that maybe if I got something, I might bring it back to the kids or my family. So, um, but I guess it's similar to how that's why I want to ask
Mhm.
you also, sort of other people in other countries, how bad is it there, or how is it? It sounds like it's probably the same from what I'm hearing. You guys are sort of like stay at home unless you have to go out for any particular real reason.
For the essentials. Yeah. So what it is
Yeah.
here is at the federal level, right? The president and they've allowed the individual states to determine what each state wants to do, determine which is determined by the amount of cases of people with corona, people who are dying, um, in their states, and then that's being supported by the Fed, right, by the federal government.
Right.
Um,
Right.
so there's no martial law, not necessarily. I mean, certain places they have quarantine large communities or cities, but not to the really not to the point where I thought it would have escalated to. But it's all about that wave that they keep talking about, right? That curve. They're just
Hmm.
by social distancing and staying home, which I think is an incredible thing because this is the world community. This isn't just an isolated thing. And if this is happening also like in Russia, in South Africa, Peru, all these different places, then what this is showing is as a human race, we can all do things all at the same time to help mankind. And this is probably the first time that this is actually, I know this is kind of off point, but I'll get back to, but I think this has proven a point that we all, as people of different countries, can all still do things on a on a global scale. So if we're all helping each other by staying home and protecting the rest of our local our communities, then we could do things on a global scale to make things happen, right? To bring us all closer together and to
Hmm.
do some really incredible stuff. So it's good to know that what you guys are doing or the situation that you guys are in is actually taking place here. It's actually the same because I think all of our leaders are working together, taking this thing very,
Hmm.
very serious. And I think, again, as humanity, we're all taking this serious. Of course, there are people who are
Right. But
going out.
the question I have to ask is, do you know anybody who has corona? Do you know anybody who died from corona? And my answer is no.
Mm,
Just like I didn't know anybody who got AIDS, I don't know anybody who died of AIDS. I'm not saying that people aren't dying. People die every year
right.
from the flu. People are saying this is a different kind of flu because it causes ARDS. What's it? Whatever
Aggravated.
the wait.
Well, well, mhm,
Is it ARDS, aggravated respiratory dysfunctional syndrome?
syndrome. You're right.
So
Right.
essentially, you're dying from pneumonia, a really bad case of pneumonia where you're essentially drowning.
Right. Right. Or you
Now,
just can't get the air in
people,
your lungs, right, into your
yeah, you
body.
can't get the air in because of what supposedly this virus is doing. Now,
Mm,
having said that, um, on former mayor of New York, Rudy Giuliani's channel called Common Sense on YouTube, he had a doctor from uh, basically a Hasidic community in, I believe it's upstate New York,
yes.
who
Yeah.
has been treating patients. I don't know if you saw that.
I did.
He
Yeah. Go
said
ahead.
that yeah, he treated 550 patients at least with this drug cocktail comprised of hydrocortisone, hydrochloroquil,
Quill. Yeah. Queen.
zinc,
Yeah.
and Z-Pack,
Z-Pack.
and the three together, basically, none of his patients got well, none of his patients died. None of his patients had to be incubated or put on a respirator, and and whatever. So not all of them are from that community. Some were patients from outside the community that
Right.
heard about him or through whatever. So what I'm saying is, this is more than anecdotal evidence that there is a drug cocktail, if you want, out there that can potentially resolve this issue if it's given to somebody before they have acute um,
Symptoms.
respiratory issues,
Yeah, right. Hmm.
right? So, and that's what he's saying. If you, anyway, so look, I got sick last year in February. I had the flu. I guess whatever. I guess you would call it the flu, right? Whatever it was
Right.
last year, but it was in February. This year in February, nothing happened. However, in the middle of March, and I don't remember if my wife was first or if I was first, but I was sick for like 2 days. Now, did I have the coronavirus? I mean, I don't know. It felt like the flu, um, but it lasted for like 2 days, and then I was gone. And my wife was suffered a little bit more. She was sick for like 4 days. But again, I remember the previous year. I think for her it was late January. She was sick again for like about 4 days, and the same kind of sickness, like head cold, congestion,
Right.
tired, whatever. Now I don't know. I don't know. Did we potentially get the flu, or did we potentially get coronavirus? And just that's how we dealt with it. These are the so-called mild flu-like symptoms.
Right.
So that's I don't know. There's no testing that I'm aware of available for the average person
Right.
here. Certainly, I wouldn't mind being tested to see, like, uh, do I have coronavirus antibodies,
Hmm.
meaning that I had the cold and my body fought it off. That would be good to know
True.
because I survived it if I had it.
Right.
But I'm not trying to make light of the situation if people truly are dying. But just one other thing on this point is someone's supposedly hashtag on Twitter has been trending was hashtag film your hospital. People have been going around to different hospitals filming, looking for all these sick patients, and they're finding nothing.
What do you mean?
And what they're finding is there's nobody. These hospitals are empty, right? These hospitals are empty, and there's no evidence that people are dying. That's what these people are asserting. Now, I don't know, right? I'm just saying
Right.
this is something that I just heard about yesterday.
Yeah, because
Hashtag,
this is the first I'm hearing. What is it again? Hashtag
yeah, hashtag something like film your hospital,
film your
something
hospital.
like that.
Okay.
What's the matter?
So that's interesting because I mean, look, this obviously has to be taken very serious.
I'm
Until
live right now. I'm being recorded. Excuse
I mean, we know that we have to be safe.
me. Right.
You're back on. Yeah, we know
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Yeah.
that's okay. Good look. A lot of us are home. My dog was barking and it interrupted me. So I know you said you have a family. Um, so we all have to take this really serious because it's not about now to start investigating, although people will be investigating this, but it's about getting all the information, getting all the facts. Something very interesting that you said that you had upper respiratory infection. I was downtown Roanoke, Virginia, speaking to a friend of mine. He owns a business downtown, which is still open. Um, but only like two people can go in there at one time. Anyways, long story short, he said the same thing. He said last over the holiday, around November into December, Roanoke had an increase in respiratory um, reports or problems, right? And that
Okay.
same thing. Everyone got through it. Nobody died. Nothing was reported. Everything was good. And this is when we first started hearing things coming out of China, right? Now, if you do some reporting, okay. So to end the point is, even to today, apparently, as of the 31st of March, 2020, there are no reported cases of coronavirus in Roanoke. That was from yesterday. Excuse me. So I think it's interesting that if if we all had if we all had this and didn't know, but then once it started to take people's lives, and if it just started over in China, in Wuhan, then but if we all had it, or a lot of people were experiencing this, then it shouldn't be considered an infection from China. Then because it all happened maybe all at one time. I don't know if it was an airborne thing, although they're saying that the life, right? What they know is it can only last for so many hours on your clothes, on metal, on different type of surfaces. But still, to say that it came from Wuhan, from that particular wet market, which was, has a very eclectic group of wild animals and normal animals that we eat. Um, the thing is, if we already had it, but it got discovered and they named it that over in China, and China didn't tell the World Health Organization and the CDC because they were trying to control it. Then all of a sudden, other people start getting it around the world a month and a half after a lot of people started to die over there in China. I just think that we shouldn't focus it and say that it's a virus that started in China, because if we all had it,
But it,
like you're saying, in Poland, you guys might have had you had a respiratory
yeah,
problem
but I mean, I'm saying I got it in March, middle of March,
of this year.
and this supposedly, yeah, this year. I'm
Okay.
saying, in terms of like, so in 2019, uh, I got the flu. Let's say in February is what I was trying to say. In 2020, I didn't get sick at all until March, until the middle of March.
Okay. But at that time,
Yes, honey.
so Holy Joe,
And
at,
but so what I'm
mhm,
saying is it possible that, okay, sweetie putty, thank you. Sorry, my daughter just came in here.
mhm,
You need to go to sleep, sweetie. You need to go to sleep. Okay. But anyhow, so what I'm saying, no, but the timeline is that, these cases first appeared in China, okay, and there's conflicting reports because there is a lot of, I would say it's more than speculation. There's a lot of evidence that points to potentially this being, accidentally leaked from the Wuhan Chinese, biological laboratory where they work on bioweapons.
mhm,
And the second part of that is, or what maybe precedes this, is that there was this doctor at Harvard who was arrested for espionage
mhm,
because the Chinese government was paying him $50,000 a month, and all of his students were not students; they were Chinese, military personnel that supposedly worked for him, as, graduate students or what have you. And one of his so-called students was caught trying to leave America with like 28 or 30 vials of, biological material strapped to his ankles, and he was going to the Wuhan biolab. So what I'm saying is there's a lot of information here that we don't know
not yet.
yet,
Hmm.
but and again, then the other side of that story is, but did we, you know, this is Corona 2, sorry, it's SARS 2. So it's a SARS virus that is new, and it looks like some people said it looks like they did the DNA analysis on it.
Right.
It's been engineered. So someone has mucked with it, that it didn't
Mm.
just evolve on its own or mutate on its own. So, I mean, that being said, I mean, that's secondary. I
Mm.
mean, we're in this situation now, but obviously the first cases were reported in the Wuhan province, and this wet market was basically in the shadow of that biolab.
That biolab
Okay.
that's in Wuhan.
Yeah.
That's
In,
what you're.
in
Mhm.
Wuhan. Now, and the thing is, what makes me think that there's maybe some, just anecdotal, but what makes me think that there may be some
Truth to it.
truth to it
Hmm.
is that the Chinese government covered it up, and that they knew, the Wuhan 8 was 8 doctors that were persecuted by the Chinese government, and then one doctor who was trying to get the word out, he was killed. He died of the coronavirus later, right, in custody, I guess. So why would they try to keep this so quiet?
Hmm.
It's no big deal, right?
Right.
Should be no big deal. So
Well, again, this is still too soon, too early, because there needs to be some more collaborative evidence from other people, basically, and it can't be from the United States. I don't think it would have to be from the Wuhan area in order to validate what may have been going on there, unless the doctor or other people who were associated with him. Now, this was over at Harvard. You said it was here in the U.S., or was he
yeah, it was,
working overseas?
no, he at the Harvard labs, at Harvard, whatever it is, wherever they have their labs, he was getting paid $50,000 a month, uh, under the table, so
Hmm.
not reported income. Um, basically, what do you call it, bribed, whatever,
Right.
just getting money from the Chinese government to basically, he was espionage. That's why he was arrested. This dude was arrested, and
Over in Wuhan.
no, no, in the United States.
In,
He was, I mean, I believe he was arrested in the United States, and that they may have figured it all out when they caught one of his so-called students trying to leave the country on
okay.
a commercial flight with this stuff strapped to his leg. I don't know the whole story. The FBI is probably still investigating it. We'll probably find out more details later. But what I'm saying is there is definitely a connection between this professor, whatever you want to call him,
Right.
from Harvard, and his students, and the Wuhan laboratory,
Okay.
um, and stolen vials of biological materials that came out of the U.S. Right.
Right.
So obviously we do, the U.S. and other countries, Canada, even China does research on these things so that they can work on cures, so they can work on whatever. But
Sure.
they also have been using them as biological weapons,
Mm.
right? The bad thing about it is you can't control it, right? If this was an accidental leak,
Right.
look at what happened. I mean, imagine if it was intentional leak. Look at what happened. Who are you trying to hurt, right?
True.
So anyhow, all I'm saying is, that's really kind of a secondary story. But I'm just saying right now, again,
Hmm.
hashtag film your hospital, or whatever the hashtag is basically just people going to the local hospital to see, like, is there really a shortage of face masks and gowns?
Right.
And this 4,000, what is it? Is it 4,000 bed hospital they set up in the Javits Center, Jacob Javits Center,
Hmm. Right.
or 1,200 beds, I guess. Is it being used? I mean, all the pictures I see is just empty.
Well, the other
So
day,
I don't know. I mean,
yeah, the other day it was empty. But just want to say, when you just do a Google search for Harvard University laboratories, and they have a particle physics laboratory. They also have integrated science and engineering. Okay, but then they also have a neuromotor control lab. Okay, neuromotor, right? But then there's also some biochemistry buildings that are, I think, associated with Harvard. And so, yeah, normally most people think that people who come out of Harvard are business leaders, you know, um, authors, doctors, things like that. But when it comes to actual laboratories, I mean, you know, it again, two pieces of information, right? The information that you said that was posted, where someone said, go to the hospitals and videotape. I mean, these are people on the front line who obviously they're risking their lives to protect the people who are sick and to make sure those who come through for the tests to make sure that they're okay. There is some video that I did see over in Wuhan. It had to do with these people who live in Australia, and they were trying to get back to Australia right when during the time of when China locked down the entire country. I think it might have even been under martial law because the thing what they were showing is that they had people literally welding the doors locked in these multi-level apartment complexes, and people are screaming,
right,
people are crying, saying, "My mother's dying, please someone help," and they can't get in. So medical people cannot get into the buildings to get these people. So basically, these people were basically dying in their apartments. Um, and so the same thing, like remember in Italy when they showed when more and more people were dying, that people they would go on the patios and they would sing to the neighbors and things like that. Well, this is what the people in China were doing also. They were screaming, "Hey, we need help. We need food. We're starving." Those type of things. And
right,
this was being videotaped by obviously um, people who non-Chinese people, but they were married to they had Chinese wives documenting this. And so when I saw that, it was really disturbing because this is
mhm,
before I left New York to come back down to Virginia. So I just think it's really interesting that, excuse me, I just had an apple. I guess next time I won't eat before a pothead. But the thing is, it's interesting to see how certain countries are doing things to protect their people, but also um, if there are some underlying things that have happened that took place that are cause and effect, and maybe this is that we're in a as a as a cause of what somebody was doing with bioweapon or bio uh, viruses that it came because I mean there's been other reports where this has happened throughout history modern history, um, that hopefully this is not the case. And that's all I'm saying. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I like to listen to see what other people are saying, because what I see is only what is local to me. And other people in other places around the world are, maybe they're seeing things that are more horrific that just are not being reported because,
Right.
it's just not making the news for whatever reasons. So I just try to play neutral, try to play fair because, like, I don't know. For me, I just try to again, stay neutral. I don't want to pick a side because information is information. Everybody needs to know it and have
Right.
access
Right.
to it. So so to get back to just like daily life, what are you have you seen a major change? I mean, besides people staying away from each other, because I think they just said that you have to stay now 26 feet or 28 feet away from each other now.
Oh wow.
They just reported that.
I mean, you're supposed to do social distancing. The only issue I had with that was I went to the Rinnick, which is the main square, by myself. Um, yeah, for an errand.
Hmm.
And then while I was there, I decided to go into Biedronka, which is like a supermarket.
Hmm.
Um, it's a it's a Polish company, but it's now owned by the Portuguese, and they
Hmm.
really fixed it up, and it's pretty nice. Anyway, so there's a Biedronka supermarket in the Rinnick, in the main square area,
Right.
and they made you hand sanitize when you came in, even though I was wearing gloves because it was like only 3 degrees centigrade,
How
so
much?
it was pretty cold. So I had gloves on, but anyway,
Gotcha.
so I took off my gloves, sanitized it,
Yeah.
and then grabbed the basket, got some stuff, and then when I got in line, here's the thing: I get in line, and I'm definitely more than an arm's length away from the guy in front of me, but I set my basket down and I slid it forward,
Mm.
and it was close to his basket, and the guy was, he was like, I mean, the guy
Kind of
looked
freaked out.
either
Kind of freaked out.
Spanish or
Yeah.
Portuguese, or maybe I don't know. He had a big beard, not a big beard, but he had a pretty heavy beard. Like whatever, more than a couple months old beard.
Right.
And he turned around and he had an accent. It was definitely not a Polish accent, and he
Sure.
said, "Get back 2 meters."
Gotcha.
He just like
Yeah.
in a
Yeah.
kind of a
In a in
angry
a in a
voice.
gruff throat.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I'm like, and I was actually on the phone with my wife at the time, and I basically just said, "F off, man."
All right.
You know what I
Well.
mean? Like, dude, what are you afraid of? You know what I mean? Like, I didn't get near him. My basket got close to his basket. Like, give me a break, and they're on the floor. So it's like, anyway, that's the only sort of encounter that I had that you could say was kind of weird, or challenging, or whatever. Could have led to fisticuffs. 'Cause you know what I mean? Like, dude,
It's
what
true.
are you gonna fight me? If you think I'm gonna get you sick, what are you gonna do? Fight with me? Just no one's even near you.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
I'm more than a hand's away, and come on, I'm more
Yeah.
than a hand's away. My basket's between us. Anyway, just irritating. Like, dude, knock it off, man. What are you
Understood.
afraid of? Go back to Spain.
Right. Right.
What are you doing here? Maybe you're a carrier.
Well, listen.
I heard Spain's having a big problem
All right.
with
Well,
this.
like I said, it's not about getting upset or anything like that. It's really about just keeping your calm, keeping the peace between people, because people are getting arrested just because they're pretending they have coronavirus. They're coughing on food, and they're actually getting arrested. In China, what they showed on the video was,
Mm,
if the cops came, they would knock on your door, and they'd open it up, and they would put a thermostat, one of those thermo readers, and they would
right.
measure the heat,
Thermometer.
yeah, of the temperature of your forehead. If
Yeah.
you had a flu, if you were over 98 or whatever 100 degrees,
Hmm.
they literally dragged you out, and it wasn't like you were just being dragged out by one person. They would have like six people dragging you and literally throwing you in one of the vans, one of the police vans.
Okay.
So
Yeah, that's
you know it's
that's some serious
it's
quarantining.
it's some serious. Yeah, yeah. No, I don't think they were being. I don't think anyone got executed or anything like that. I just think that they were quarantining people, and but the thing is, it just takes a little bit to get people to panic. And so you're
Yeah.
responsible. I'm responsible. If that person might be having a bad day, or they're just freaking out because they don't want to catch anything, um, everyone is just on heightened reaction, whatever you want to call it. You know what I'm saying? So I was,
Yeah.
so
On their heightened nerves, or whatever they
yeah,
call it,
yeah,
nerves
right,
on their
right,
whatever. Yeah, but look, I have no fear of this. Like I said, I may have had it, I don't know.
Or
I
you
don't know
you
if I
had
had it or
you had
not.
flu-like symptoms. You definitely had flu-like symptoms, like you said.
Yeah, you have to
You know,
go. You have to go. You have to go.
so
Oh, I'm sorry. I know we're live, but you need to change your. I'm live with
okay. Well,
folks. My daughter just came in, and she needs a diaper change.
okay. Hey, listen. So this is a good time for me
Yeah,
to say, listen. It's just be well, take care of your family, take care of yourself also, and
Roger that.
you know, we'll um, we'll do another podcast, in a couple, like maybe in a week or two, just to see how things are going. If
Right.
we're all past that bell curve that they're talking about, and but other than that, have a great evening, and thanks again for your time. Appreciate it. Listen, how can people get a hold of you if they wanted to check out your handles?
Okay, so you can check me out. Two channels. One is Joe Bonsai Poland, and the other is Holy Joe Rock and Roll.
Excellent.
So if you just Google Holy Joe Rock and Roll, you'll find me.
Okay. Well, thank you, Holy Joe Rock and Roll. We appreciate your time. And again, have a good night, and we'll reconnect with you like in 2 weeks just to see how you guys are doing and what the state of affairs are over there in Poland. All right.
All right, sounds good.
All right.
Thank
Sounds
you.
good. Nice
Thank you
to
for
meet
talking
you.
to you.
Okay. Talk to you soon.
Likewise.
Thank you.
Take care.
Okay. Bye now. So as you can see, folks, not just here in the United States, but also in other parts of the country. In other parts of the world, people are treating this thing with 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 seriousness, but also um, that we're all being affected, emotionally, physically, and then also in socially, right, and also in economically. So we all want to go back to our normal way of life that we all were so accustomed to that maybe most of us did take it for granted. But I think once we get back to a normal, whatever that new normal will be, um, that people take it day by day and just not over um, just take it day by day and really breathe and understand how precious and how important life is, because something like this that we cannot see, we cannot move out of its way, but if it's there, it's there, and maybe it's the luck of the draw if you get it or not. But the main thing is to stay healthy, eat right, wash your hands, and if you see someone who's using, if this is a fecal matter thing where it gets spread through that, who knows? Tell them to wash their hands. If you see them using the restroom, even afterwards, be conscious. Be a little bit more responsible, but be respectful, and tell people that don't maybe wash their hands as often to please wash your hands, because we've all, as a world community, are going through something that we've never had ever happen to us. Not like this. And being that we're all connected through social media and through the internet, it is very, very important that we all take care of each other through whatever means possible. If it's through communicating like this, or if it's through communicating with your friends locally, everything makes a difference. And we're all connected. So we can do things all together as a world community to make things better for all of us. Thanks for joining me. Tomorrow we have a few more guests coming up, and I hope you're able to spend a few minutes. We're trying to make these small, quick pods, not a podcast, but more of a quick pod where we can interview people that you might not have known, and then have the opportunity to follow them um, and see what they're doing, and also to be able to communicate and to grow your networks and communicate with other people even around the world. So thanks again for joining me. Chuck here from Viper Studios and Unit 3.live, and have a great night. We will see you soon. Please stay well and take care of each other.